Brian Allenby, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. Good morning.
Excellent, excellent. So we were just talking a little before this. So you're a licensed real estate agent, but you're also an investor. You live in Boston, but you do not invest locally. Have you ever invested locally?
Not as of yet. If the numbers made sense, I would certainly do it. But given the Boston market, I find that it's more challenging here.
Right. When you say more challenging, what do you mean? I assume
Um,
entry.
the barriers to entry, as well as finding a property where the numbers make sense, regardless of how high or low those numbers are.
Right. And so people are overpaying.
Exactly.
People are
Well,
overpaying.
not necessarily overpaying as much as it's not conducive to the investment market. It's more of a retail market.
Yes. I love the way you said that. You're right. They're not overpaying. They're paying what the property's worth. It's just that it's only worth that to a retail buyer.
Exactly.
And so how did you end up in Central Jersey? Where specifically? What city are you in Central New Jersey?
Ewing and Trenton.
Okay. So I haven't been, maybe I have been. I've been all over New Jersey, but I never know where I'm at. So, so what got you out there?
So I went to middle school and high school in New Jersey
Okay.
with someone who is now my best friend. And since we kind of parted ways in middle school, we've kind of gone our separate ways in life. And bringing us back together in a business context, it meant that we had very complementary skills and very complementary kind of preferences in what he handles and what I handle. And so I do the business side. I do all the accounting, finding the properties, running the numbers, making sure that the financing makes sense, that we have it. And then he does the construction. So he does the GC work, and we're both in it 50-50.
Nice. Now, these are rental properties. Do you guys do
Correct.
some flips as well? Yeah.
For the ones that we've found, they've just been rental. I think
Find
that
what you're looking for, right?
exactly. I think that if the right property came available at the right time, we would certainly be interested in a flip. But
Nice.
kind of something that you and I have talked about in other calls is running the numbers and making sense that whether you're flipping or renting, that the numbers make sense for that property, because a lot of times they'll make sense one way and not the other.
Yeah. And you got to have your two exit strategies. You got to make sure that it makes sense all the way through it. So, Brian, you started as an agent. Are you still an agent? And if so, what markets do you really like to work with and why?
So actually, when I initially got started, I wasn't an agent.
Yeah.
And so then through a combination of wanting to kind of do it full time and really get all that it was worth out of it, as well as having better access to information and being connected with the right people, I wanted to go the agent route. And I personally kind of I concentrate on two worlds, to niche down enough to be specific and develop that niche for myself, but not avoid getting too siloed, and still kind of diversify myself. And so I concentrate on the retail side in Greater Boston, Cambridge, Summerville, Brookline, Newton.
Yep. And rentals.
And then rentals and buying and selling. And then South Boston as well.
Do you find that there's more rental money to be made? It's easier to make that money right now than retail buyers?
I personally find rentals frustrating because the clients aren't as sticky, and I feel like there's not as much loyalty. It's rare to really get a rental client on exclusive agreement of any sort. And they kind of just shop around. And so the more value that I can bring to them, the stickier I try to make that relationship. But it's more challenging than the buyer or the listing side. That being said,
I agree. Go ahead. Yeah.
That being said, if you can scale it and kind of do them in quantity, then it has great potential. But I'd rather do work smart than
Work smarter, not harder. And so
exactly.
you're making some income from it. What else? What did you do before real estate? Before you jumped into real estate, what was your job? What was your title? Where were you working?
So I started off in software technical support, so helping people on that end, and that's um, kind of where I combine my sales experience from college and in a professional analytical environment. Um, and then for a short time, I kind of I owned a small business with a business partner. We overhauled it and brought it from um, our products being sold in 9 countries to 18 countries. And kind of just, for lack of a better word, a business flip.
Right. And what did you end up selling the business for? So how long did you run it? And then like, what did you end up selling that for?
And so we got it in 2015. I divested in 2017 when my partner bought me out.
Right. Nice. Very cool. So a partner flip, like basically you went with a partner, got them to the point where they're like, yeah, you know, I don't need you anymore. Okay, cool. Well, carry on. Just buy my piece. And you started rolling that money into real estate, or did you try the stocks first? What made you decide real estate over stocks? Obviously, there's 3 ways to make money: business, stocks, real estate. And so you made it in business, and now you're like, okay, I got to transfer to something less volatile. Which way did you decide to go first?
I've always kind of dabbled on the stocks, but I think of that more as keeping pace with the market, trying to kind of grow your money, but on average, it's hard to beat inflation. The stock market grows at 7% on average, roughly speaking, right?
Yep.
And inflation is the same average, like 3 point something. And so, comparatively speaking to other investments, it's not that big of a delta.
Right.
And so I want to make more than 4% on my money year over year.
No kidding. You greedy bastard. How dare you? And so real estate made the obvious choice.
Exactly.
And so how did you stumble upon New Jersey? I mean, you mentioned you had a partner out there, you had the potential, and you grew up there. But I mean, there's places here. You could have gone to Springfield, right? Western Mass, Worcester, Fall River, New Bedford, Fitchburg. So that Massachusetts has areas, and then Rhode Island's right next door. New Hampshire's right next door. Why go to New Jersey instead of one of the other gateway communities?
So my partner, he's kind of the one on the ground, the boots on the ground, and for us, it's important to kind of operate within his sphere of influence. I can add my value to the partnership from really anywhere, especially if I can get to know an agent who can get me MLS access. Then really our only limitations are his geography and his being able to pull upon the contractors, the people that he knows, so that we can make that transition. And the 2 properties that we have, they're single families. We got them both at 20 to 25% market value. One was from the city and put about 20 to 30% market value in as a reno, and now have them rented out. And so with that, it's about a 4 to 5 year ROI payout, yep. And then it's just gravy.
And so you mentioned the down payment in the beginning. Did you use everything from the business? Are you still rolling it? Or have you found that the cash flow are you reusing that, or are you just restocking the the original cash. How are you doing with cash flow? It's been since 2018, you said?
Correct.
Okay. So how are the cash flow figures on these rental properties?
We've paid off all the reno expenses and everything like that. So at this point, we're banking that income for a potential financing on an additional property. Having that being said, I kind of got into this without any mentorship, without any guidance.
Right.
And in hindsight, the numbers worked out, luckily.
Right.
But I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know quite how to run the numbers like I do now, partly thanks to you guys.
Yep.
And
nice.
So I feel like now there's a lot of things that I would have done differently. And kind of going into a third property, that's one of the things that I'm thinking about.
Right.
And so looking for more formal ways of actually prospecting and finding properties, going for a multifamily, things like that.
Absolutely. So multifamily definitely is the better strategy, right? Because single family, tougher to cash flow. New Jersey, are you finding that they're similar to our, what we have here, 5s and 6s, or is it primarily 2s and 3s? What have you purchased so far, and what do you see as inventory out there?
Primarily 2s and 3s, at least in the Trenton area.
Yeah.
And what I like about the Trenton area is that the property values are lower. And so you're talking about 1 to 2s, maybe 3s, 300s range. And it's very easy for us. We went in with $40,000-$50,000 cash as a down payment on it.
Right.
Buy the house. There you go.
Yeah. And so it's worked in the beginning, but now you're looking at it and saying, okay, like the cash flow works, like you've proven the model, but you know you can get a little better. You know these could be better, they could be sweeter. Are you still looking at the same market and just opening your scope and saying, okay, now I'm looking for bigger multis? Or are you saying maybe it's time to shift to a different market?
Certainly within the kind of Trenton area. Certainly not Ewing. And that's one of the other not so minor details that I've learned in hindsight to look for is the municipality regulations. And so the way that the property that we have in Ewing, it's within 3/4 of a mile of a college campus, and if you look at the student body, it's been growing, and so we've got a captive audience that's not going anywhere, that's growing, and then the campus itself is geographically growing. So our property is moving closer, and we're not even doing anything. That being said, because it's a college town, and there's a lot of student housing, the town requires a new CO for every tenant.
Nice. That's a pain in the butt. A little extra in the back end.
And so, I don't really care about getting that CO as much as I feel like it opens us up to potential risk of them finding something that they passed last year.
Right. And all it takes is for them to make one decision, say, we no longer accept railings to be at this height. Now everything's got to be changed. Or we no longer accept, this form of door size. Now you got to change all your doors. It could be absolutely anything that a regulation could change. And suddenly those inspections are forced upon you, and you got to make those changes. So that makes sense. Definitely a good reason to fear it. So as far as financing these deals, are you still doing this with your own cash? What are you looking to do to pick up and really scale this business to get yourself more income and go to the next level? And then how many units are you looking at? Like what is the current goal?
Looking at like a 3-unit multifamily, ideally within that kind of Trenton area, and kind of going the Burr method. And
what is the Burr method? Just, I know we all know it, bigger pockets, but there's a lot of people who don't know what it means to BRRRR.
And so to buy, reno, refinance, repeat. And so what that means is when you go in and buy, you're able to leverage a little bit of a higher interest rate loan, but without the strings attached of a traditional mortgage or a traditional bank loan like that.
Nice.
And then once you've got it renoed and you've got the cash flow, then and you're kind of have the flexibility to refinance, get a traditional bank loan, switch out that higher interest rate and move on forward.
Nice. Yeah, Brian, I love it. So let's do a little coaching session right after this. But before I get into that, if you go back and give somebody advice, what are the 3 pieces of advice you'd give somebody for, at 20 years old, what could you have done differently? If you go back and talk to yourself and say, hey, here are the 3 pieces of advice, do this and you'll be happier, more successful. What would those 3 pieces be?
I wish I'd gotten into it sooner. That first property was in 2018 when I was 28. And so I feel like we're doing really well, but that I'm later to the game than I could have been.
Okay.
And secondly, get a license. It gets you access to the MLS, as well as the mindset and the relationships with the right people.
Yep. I like that. Yeah, those are good answers. Was that 2 or was that 3?
That was 2. 3,
Yep.
find a partner
There you go.
who you can trust, and you can share responsibility with, because nobody can do everything. We have to identify what we're good at and either outsource the rest or leverage a partner for that.
I love it. Brian, great job. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, say they're working retail in the Boston market and they just want to buy some property here in Massachusetts, or they want to partner up in New Jersey, what's the easiest way to contact you?
I actually just joined EXP with you guys.
Nice.
And so my cell phone is 617-396-7030, or my website is allenbyboston.com.
Awesome. Very good, Brian. Thank you, brother. Cheers to your success when you have a choice. Always work with the best.
Thank you, Walter.
You're welcome, brother. All right.